Welcome to On the Brink with Andi Simon. It's our turn for us to really help you see, feel, and think in new ways, because my job is to help you get off the brink. And each time I do one of these podcasts, and we've done 430 of them, I remember that you may not have watched all 430 of them, but this one has to help you do something you may not be ready to do before. And so it's important that I bring you people who are going to provide you with new ideas, new ways to see yourself, new methods for beginning to do self-awareness or re-energize. And so today I have Tammy Cho here from British Columbia. And so we're doing this on a bi-coastal basis, so it's going to be a lot of fun. And I want to thank Tammy for being here with us, right? And now I'm going to give you her bio and tell you why it's important you listen. And then I'm going to let her tell you about her journey and what she brings to you to help you, and these are the words I like to use, see, feel, and think in new ways. You're going to become a little bit of an anthropologist today, and that will be a lot of fun. So Tammy Cho is a former patient care leader turned international best-selling author. Her book is called Business on Purpose, and it's part of a book of women who have written about being in business on purpose. She is self-love and energy leadership mentor, specializing in face and body analysis, human design, and NLP, and she's going to tell you about all of these. She helps impact-driven entrepreneurs and leaders overcome imposter syndrome. I had to give a talk on imposter syndrome to women not all that long ago, and I realized that I've been an imposter my entire life, and I never knew it, and I never thought of myself that way, but it is an interesting, I'll call it an epiphany, to realize that you've always gone into things without really knowing everything had to be done. It was okay. You were competent and confident. Didn't matter. But it's fun to begin to think about things through a fresh perspective. She helps them fall in love with their authentic selves so they can break through plateaus to scale, lead, and thrive for the next level of purpose-driven impact. Now, she uses human design, NLP, and her clients' unique face and body blueprint as a personalized roadmap. She uncovers the emotional blocks silently draining their energy and confidence. She empowers them to embody their authentic leadership and create success that feels as good as it looks. She's been featured on Positive Impact TV, Brain Z Magazine, and major platforms like Fox, CBS, NBC, and AP News. And she's a host of another podcast called Authentic Leaders Rising. It's really a pleasure to have you here, Tammy. Thank you so much for coming. All the way from British Columbia. Think about how small the world is. Tell the listeners or the viewers about who you are, what your journey has been like, and how we got to the point where you're doing the kind of work you are to help people change. And it's really marvelous. So please, who's Tammy? What you been all about?
Well, thanks for having me, Andrea, here. And I love to dive into my story. I always wonder where I should start. And, I think the one important thing to say is that I worked as a nurse for 20 years, and I worked at the bedside to leading one of the biggest hospitals here in BC. And during that process, I burned out. And I essentially went to work one day, Andrea, and I had chest pain, and it was radiating up my jaw and down my arm. And I couldn't breathe. It was really scary. And I got wheeled off to emergency in front of, everyone at work. And that was a big part of me doing what I'm doing today. And I think leading up to that burnout, Andrea, I knew I wasn't doing well. I was losing my ability to focus and concentrate and all these things. I even got a doctor's note at that time to take time off work. But I intellectually knew what to do, but I couldn't get myself to emotionally let go. And I think a lot of the audience could relate in the sense that, often we know what we need to do, but we're not necessarily letting ourselves do it. So there's that disconnect, right, within ourselves. And so that was what I was going through. And, the burnout really slowed me down, Andrea, but it really wasn't until I had my first baby. And she was lying there on one of those baby Einstein mats, and she was hitting one of those, the dangling toys for the very first time intentionally, right? And I saw it and I looked at it, but I didn't feel any joy or happiness. Like I said, as a matter of fact, kids do that, right? And if it wasn't for this community nurse that was sitting next to me in my living room couch that pointed out that, you're not relating to your child like other moms are. Like I wouldn't have known how numbed out and disconnected I was to, my own child, that when I speak back about it, it just like blows my mind now, right? And I think there's a lot of people right now that we're walking around, living someone else's life, out of, what we're actually maybe meant to do, called to do, what actually matters to us, because we're not feeling the range of our emotional abundance, so to speak. And so that was what I was going through. And I, obviously it put a fire under my butt to do, start on my journey. And obviously I did the therapy and counseling thing. But I also started diving into, a lot of personal development work, trying to better myself. My mom had left me when I was 20 days old. And so in that moment, I realized I wasn't like physically abandoning my daughter, but I was emotionally abandoning her. Right. And so this was like a, big realization that really put that fire under my bum, and I tried to master the mind. I did, NLP, I ran masterminds, and I became a millionaire through real estate with my husband. And I still wasn't happy. I still didn't feel any more confident or, fulfilled within my life, so to speak. And I kept on going, and I did energy healing in various modalities, from Reiki to bioenergy to shamanism. And honestly, Andrea, when I stopped exchanging healings with other practitioners I was learning from and things like that, everything was still there. I was still chronically burning out. I was still experiencing, depression, and I had 24/7 generalized anxiety with panic attacks, all of that was still underneath. And, and I'm a truth seeker. I don't know about you, but I keep on looking for more. And I pulled into my life 4 years of, spiritual and emotional healing. And I came across something called psychosomatic therapy. So to just let the audience know, and yourself, is to keep things simple. It's a study of the body, mind, heart, soul together, as is expressed through our physical features on our face. And what I saw there was that, my body was showing me how I was yearning for this love and connection, but another part of my body was actually pushing it away. And it really brought me face to face with myself, to really see what was actually happening, how it was affecting literally my body, and how I was trying to address the mind and, address the body. I was trying to do things all separated. And until I brought it all together, it was like I was operating out of separation versus wholeness, essentially. And so this is the place where I eventually, move forward with, my healing, and using the face as a way to awaken people I work with now. And I bring, the human design, psychosomatic therapy, NLP, all these things together to serve someone in this way, to really open up, fall in love with themselves, and to really experience more, authentic confidence, fulfillment, sustainable success, without feeling like you got to do more all the time. So I've been talking a long time. Please go ahead, Andrea.
No, your journey has been from the very beginning, an opportunity or a challenge for you to begin to find who is Tammy, and how do I find happiness and love in me. You're an individual who is really on a journey. I mean, this is not something that, but I also know from the neurosciences and the cognitive sciences and anthropology that the mind does exactly what it thinks you want it to do. And Marissa Pierce has a wonderful book out called Change Your Story, Change Your Life. She's got marvelous videos on how the mind is so fascinating, because it creates a false reality. There's no reality. It creates one that you live in, but aren't quite sure why, because it's not the one you want. And you know that. You said it so well. That's not what I want, but I don't know how to change what I am doing to be what I want it to be doing. So please finish, because this has taken you to the next stage in your own transformation. You discovered something that you found in your face and your feelings that you can now share with others. Please continue.
Yeah, and I think when we talk about as a face and body analysis expert, like, people are like, "What's that?" Right? And just to keep things simple, like, essentially your physical face and body is a direct representation of your thoughts and emotional history. And so very much, Andrea, like you just spoke about, right? Like change your thoughts, change your life. And what I'm aware of is that, yeah, we could change our thoughts. And obviously that's a really good thing and change our life. And there's a place here that through our own body, that it brings us a little deeper, because what controls our thoughts and what we believe we deserve and all these things comes to a part of ourselves of in the realm of the emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is why the face analysis becomes a bit more pronounced. And maybe this is where I share my screen here, if you're okay with that, Andrea.
I think that would be wonderful.
Yeah, thank you. And I will share this, and I'll, for the listeners, I'll make sure that I speak clearly. And so I have essentially a picture here. There's 6 pictures, and there's the 2 in the middle are the original pictures. And the ones on the left side is my 2 left sides of my face mirrored together. And the pictures on the far right are my 2 right sides of my face mirrored together. And they're split up in a way where it's essentially before, when I was going through my burnout and what my actual face looked like. And then after the burnout, when I stepped into, all the pieces I'm talking about, working on the deeper traumas, working on falling in love with myself and stepping to my own self-leadership. And so, obviously, if you're listening on the audio and you can't see this, I invite you to, go to Andrea's visual podcast to get a snippet of what this is, because there's 2 completely different people here. The top picture, you can see that, my face was very much rounded. And it was like very much speaks to a personality where I just like kind of went with the flow of things. I didn't really, my top lip is much more thinner than my bottom lip. And this was a place where I didn't know how to speak up for myself, the more sensitive parts of myself. My eyes were more squinty. So it was speaking to my sensitivity and how I, didn't want to really express things at the heart emotional level. The heart is essentially our heart chakra, our heart system, so to speak. And these are pieces you can see that, once through the transformation, you can see that my eyes got a lot bigger. The shape of my face was more elongated. I began to use my gifts. And so I stood into more of a, with humanitarian tendencies to use my gifts for more than just myself or the people around me. Like I wanted to create a deeper impact. God bless you. And I didn't speak about this yet, but the left side of our face, if you put your hand on the left side of your face, this is essentially your private world. It's your inner world that we want to keep, private to ourselves sometimes, often. And then the 2 right sides of our face. So if you put your hand on the right side, this is the public face and what we show to the world. And oftentimes what I see again and again, and you can see it in the pictures in front of you if you're seeing this, is that you see my left side of the face and the top left picture is much more darkened. The way I wore my hair, I was literally covering up my mental zone. You can see that on the outside, my hair was off my face and I was showing more to other people, but I was hiding from myself. And you can see on the right side, my forehead was actually narrowing up. It's kind of like shaped where it's getting thinner at the top of my head. So it spoke to a place where I was kind of like limiting my point of view. I was very narrow-minded. I couldn't, like, my thoughts were probably running the show more than I'm running my thoughts, if that makes sense. And, often when I do pictures splits of my clients with the left and the right side of the face, this is where we're not necessarily being who we are. And so when I see a big difference between the left side of someone's face and the right side of someone's face, it often speaks to places where we feel like a part of ourselves is not enough, that we can't show this part of ourselves. It's places where we feel, often it's from a place of trauma. And until we can see ourselves at a deeper level and witness, this is how I'm actually treating myself, then we think everything is going right. We may feel like an imposter. There's places in our life that are working, and then we're hitting a plateau in other places of our life. we're doing our best and we're stuck at a certain level of income. Whatever it is, often pertains to this piece where we're not letting ourselves fully express ourselves. There's a disconnect, if you will, right, with the inner world and your outer world and how much you feel is worthy to be expressed.
This is very
And
deep. My goodness. For the sake of our listeners who cannot see, the picture I'll put up on our blog, so you can see the picture in the context of this as well. And you can watch it on YouTube, but the difference is quite dramatic, and it's not subtle. It's really, it's very dramatic. And how did your face change like that?
yeah, and so a big part of face analysis is, first of all, seeing and witnessing ourselves in this way. And I like to, in my sessions, to really support someone to drop from their mind into the heart, because oftentimes, we feel safer, protecting ourselves in our minds. And
Right.
I'm helping someone to really feel and come back to themselves and realizing, wow, these are the pieces that I've been, neglecting and stepping over, pushing through in my day, maybe causing some burnout or exhaustion. And it's like, first of all, it's like that self recognition piece is really healing and important. And I've had people just have the face analysis session and their lip color changes.
Yeah.
So it's quite dramatic just in itself. And everyone's different depending where they are in their journey, right? But the next piece is really like tapping into the body to go deeper into the emotions. And that's my skill set, being able to pinpoint where to go, trust my intuition, allow their body to guide me. Because if it's showing up on your face, it's also showing up on your body. And so we journey through these pieces. Obviously, I bring in some of the NLP. My energetic essence is, my human design gifts is definitely to drop someone deeper into their emotionality. And I see this again and again in my clients. And then learning how to build emotional resilience and learn emotional leadership. Because we touched upon this earlier in, the show with Andrea here about changing our thoughts. But it's our emotions that are also often creating the thoughts we choose.
Right.
And this is the missing piece, is that we create the life based on what we feel we could deserve at many levels. It's unconscious often the times, and my role is to awaken someone to that difference. So that's why I call myself a self-love and energy leadership coach, because it really is about learning to fall in love with who we are.
Mm-hmm.
And the challenge is that a lot of people don't know who they are. Like we feel like we're, our identity of what we do, and a mother and father and, sister or brother, or, other roles in our life. But when we take away all that, who are we? And so that's an important piece to reconnect with, and to then fall in love with this piece. Because if you don't fall in love with who you are, you don't know who you are, you can't fall in love with who you are. And you're living life sort of filtered with a veil of protection of the right side of her face. So,
That's
Andrea, please
reflect.
go ahead.
Yes, Tammy, yeah, I think you can stop the sharing unless you have more points to
Sure. Yeah,
share.
yeah, yeah.
There we
Thank
go.
you.
You said something that was very important, that it isn't the jobs we have, whether it's that of a mother or a wife or an anthropologist or a business owner or an entrepreneur. Those are all external definitions. You're looking for the true you. And
Hmm.
I think it would help our listeners or our viewers to begin to understand, what do you mean by that? Because they'll often
Yes.
define themselves in terms of what they've done or what they've achieved, or and not realizing that they are allowing the outside to define the inside, I think is what I'm hearing. Am I correct or sort of correct?
Yeah, yeah. There's nothing wrong with achieving things outside of ourselves, but what goes awry when we place those external pieces as our self-worth. And so, coming back to what you're saying about who are we, right? Like, I often walk people through an exercise where we just let go of all, as a meditation, that let go of all these roles we play. And often what comes up is the essence. And it's very intangible. That's why probably a lot of people are not connecting to it. But often there's these places of what unravels when we remove the emotional upsets or triggers or trauma, right? There's usually unraveling of essence of what this younger part of us, which is the closest to the innocence of who we are, will really be connected to the essence of perhaps love or of gratitude or innocence or playfulness, or like really like connected to truth. Like everyone is a little bit different. And when we start to, this is like probably one of the deepest essence of our values. And so when we connect to these pieces and start to lead our life and to really express ourselves, it starts to filter and change our entire life. Like I've seen this again and again, where it's like learning how to receive ourselves. It's a skill to learn how to receive these parts that feel so non-tangible that it's easy to just brush away.
Mm-hmm.
But when I'm able to ground someone into this and to see how like how we could bring in more of these pieces, to bring in the energy essence, and this is where the energy leadership comes in, is to be able to actually express this part of you, into filter through the energy of the words. Essentially, if we look at our thoughts, our thought forms, our electrical impulses essentially is energy. Yeah. Our emotions are energy in or out of motion, essentially. Our body under a microscope is vibrating balls of energy. Mm-hmm. And, our soul, is essentially energy. It's non-tangible. And so essentially it's a way to lead ourselves in our truest, authentic essence, where we could eventually, I believe the next evolution of leadership is that, I could bring my essence into a podcast and bring into a client a session or into a room where I was speaking. And you can really command attention through your essence and to touch people's hearts in this way where you're fully expressing your natural, authentic energy essence. And I know I said a lot there, so I'm going to just let you, let me know if I'm, landing this for you, Andrea.
Well, it is a bit complicated on the one hand, but if I hear you correctly, and I'm trying to interpret what you're saying, is that once you let go of these other roles or other definers, and you find the key essence of who you are, freedom emerges, and the energy gets turned into, I'll say self-love, but also a sense that you're okay, you're a good person, you have great value, and it's not by the things you do, but about simply who you are. Is that what I hear you saying?
Yes, essentially, it's like a worthiness that you have this authentic confidence, but you're not trying to be someone you're not. You're actually being a deeper essence of who you are. You're being yourself. Uh-huh. And imposter syndrome comes up when we feel like we can't, be ourselves in some shape or form, which is actually directly connected to our level of worthiness. Because it's like, if, I stood here and told you can't be yourself, whether you take that like right now in this instant, or you heard it before and it's playing in the back of your mind, you're not going to feel, it's going to restrict what you're letting yourself like have and achieve, and the level of happiness and fulfillment in your life. And so go ahead, you're going to say something.
Well, I'm hearing you. So now, how do you actually find your clients to do this? It's not exactly commonly understood. And I'm curious about, your business is new-ish, and you've been growing it. And I don't think your book is directly connected to it, but there's something going on here that's really quite transformational. Am I correct? You're really building something quite different.
Yeah, I've been doing this for about, 5 to 6 years now. And so I've had a lot of repeat clients and referrals. And now I'm kind of going, wanting to expand and the impact a little bit more, develop my own program, that kind of thing. But yeah, that's the space I'm in right now. And it is like, often people come to me where they have they've done all the mindset, they've done all the strategy, and what something feels like it's missing still. Like it's very, they can't really put a finger on it. It feels like something feels off. Like, I don't know. And often it's pieces of their soul.
Hmm.
Like they've done everything they can. And there's a piece within them that doesn't feel happy. It feels like kind of empty. And they realize that they're afraid to slow down because when they slow down, um, yeah, some people will slow down and do self care. Some people will slow down and feel very uncomfortable
Yeah.
within themselves to actually stay and not do anything because it's like their worth is so tied to what they do. And so these are the pieces that it's actually, it's calling us deeper into ourselves. And if we've been on the journey in business or in personal development a while, is that what we're able to create on the outside is a direct reflection of what we're able to create on the inside.
Yes.
And so these are the pieces I'm guiding people to, and people come to me often when there's like they feel like there's an invisible block. They feel like I seem to struggle to create myself more space for myself. They feel like, I don't know, I'm just not motivated. I'm doing everything right, but it's like I feel like there's more for me. So it's like a calling for more from their soul that they can't. It's a new language. The language of the soul is new, but I'm aware that this is my purpose, and my job is to get this out there. Even though it is new and not everyone, it won't land for everyone, and that's okay. And at the end of the day, the face analysis is the very first step, and so it really opens up to where people are willing or not, maybe ready, and it's not their jam, and that's okay. um, but yeah, it does open up a lot in a very convoluted way, and I think Andrea, you've explained it in a I think you're getting it, and I appreciate you solidifying this in a way that maybe I'm not speaking about it in a solid
Uh,
enough way.
but you're doing a very good job about something that is new and a bit complicated or complex. But it also doesn't sound like the process you are working with is that complex. It is, you need somebody to come with an openness. Often, I specialize in helping organizations or people change, and I often say, if you want to change, have a crisis or create one. I mean, and the folks coming to you have reached not quite crisis point, but a point at which the things they're doing aren't getting them to where they'd like to go, but they aren't
Hmm.
quite sure, I'm guessing, where that is, how it feels, and how to get there. And so that magic is missing in terms of I'm doing a lot of stuff, but it still doesn't feel much better. Like you were doing a lot of stuff and you weren't getting unburned out. Am I right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, back then when I was going through my burnout, I was seeing a naturopath, I was seeing like a chiropractor, I was going to yoga class, I was going to naturopathic supplements. I was doing a lot of self-care. But what I could tell you, Andrea, whatever we're doing, it's not about the doing, it's actually in the being, you know?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, so this is the piece. It's the being piece. Once again, very intangible, but it's the beingness. I see this again and again in my clients that when we shift our beingness, our whole life changes. It's quite amazing. I've seen it for myself. Once I, guide my clients through it, it's like, they're like, wow, everything's flowing because innately we are flow.
Well, but you're onto something extremely important. You said, "Where's the spiritual self? Where's the energy that's there?" And we're in a very secular, often non-spiritual world that we're operating in, and we're moving fast. And the kind of people who live to old ages live in blue zones where community is essential. We don't live in those communities where our beings are not necessarily easily known and understood. And so there's some things that are missing from our society today that are very human needed. I need to have trust, and I need to have, the kinds of common friends where we can just hang out and, sit and talk with a sense of it's okay to be me. And the echo
Mhm.
coming back is, I'm so glad you are you. And so in some ways you become their best friend.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. There's so many changes in the world, and with AI just being everywhere now, right? It's really important not to lose our humanness. And I do pull in people that really care about their purpose and their impact, very much, some corporate leaders, ex-corporate leaders, turn entrepreneurs, some professionals as well, that they know that they're here for more somehow. And this is the piece of really diving deeper into ourselves. Often, sometimes it's another goal that they want. Sometimes it's more money. They want to feel, more empowered in their leadership roles. It's like their essence, their presence as leaders and things like this. And these are the pieces. It unravels all of it. It's actually, instead of addressing things at a more surface level, not to say there's not strategies important too. But I would say it's 80% the deeper stuff and 20% the strategy.
Yes. Well, but
Yeah.
you're onto something important. We're going to be doing a wonderful 2-day retreat for women entrepreneurs with companies of purpose. And I need to run one of the panels there. And I'm thinking about what you're saying because these women are successful, but they're also looking for significance. And while they've grown large companies, they are giving back with philanthropy to all kinds of places. And in some ways they are, their deeper meaning is coming through in their behaviors.
Yes.
And whether they are getting to the essence of who they are or not, I don't know. But I do know that what you're saying is a manifestation of the kind of things that many women are doing in business, where it's good enough to be profitable, but not good enough to be human. And I need to be more humane and more human because I'm a very successful woman who can share my being with others. Does this make sense? Have I captured some of the thoughts that you're sharing? I don't want to misinterpret what you're saying.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's like having a certain amount of success, but there is a deeper meaning there. And that's that fulfillment piece, right? That authentic confidence, if you will, significance, right? Like, that, I've done all these things. Like, obviously part of fulfillment is wanting to create a deeper impact in the world, right? But there's the piece it stems from is our internal growth.
Yep.
And when we haven't necessarily, we don't have this regular connection with our soul, which is often covered up under emotions if we often don't spend time being with our emotions. And how to lead our emotions is really important, not letting the emotions run the show. So it's a very important balance there, especially as a leader who's wanting to make a difference. And so this is the piece, the growth piece, the meaning, and also the impact and the contribution piece. And so I think these are the type of people that it's not just about profit for them. They want meaning, they want purpose. They know they're here for more. They want to be their best self. And I think there's pieces where people are looking for that in the external world, and there's nothing wrong per se with that. However, when there's parts of us neglected, it does show up on the face. Like when we're not on purpose, it shows up in the way someone walks.
Yeah.
I can see if someone's on purpose or staying on direction with their purpose by the way they walk. And the very things that affect our walking on a physical level, right, also affect how we express our soul's mission. So it's actually all intertwined. And so, maybe this is the next version. I used to be a nurse, and this is like nursing 2.0. Often we look at the physical body, we keep it separate from our mind or emotions, but the soul is like fits somewhere in between here. But it's actually all it's the same thing. It's actually all one.
Now, this is wonderful. So I think it's time we wrap up. As much as I'm enjoying myself, one or two things you'd like the listener or the viewer to remember about our conversation today.
Yeah, for sure. I love to invite everyone to just really allow yourself to look in the mirror, not in a way to get ready for the day and to look good for, your meetings and things like this, but to really see and look at yourself in the mirror, in the eye, and just notice what's the first thing that comes up. Is it, words of criticism? Are you hearing something that perhaps you've been avoiding to acknowledge? Or perhaps you're feeling disconnected, wherever you are, we can't transform and change if we're not real and authentic with ourselves to slow down to see where we're actually at. And very much, Andrea, your podcast is really seeing things differently, see yourself differently.
Yes.
This is my invitation to you, and I leave you, your audience, with a gift as well, of what does your face say about your self leadership, where you actually could see your own inner and outer world, where your places of strengths for your leadership are. I'll leave this with Andrea, where you just click on the link, and it's a 5-part video series, and it allows you to walk you through the journey of your own face to have that initial piece of connecting with yourself in this way. Because
I promise I'll put it up on our, I'll put it on the back page of the video, and I'll put it on the blog for the audio, and we'll celebrate what you're trying to do to help people really see, feel, and think in new ways. And it is all about this combination of a whole body. That isn't just, what I do, but how I am and who I am. And it's a deeper and important one. I have a hunch that you've learned to love your children.
Yes, yes, those are the fulfillment pieces, like not to come home and being too exhausted for the kids, or you can't really feel and be there for your kids and husband. That's a big part of fulfillment too. And so I'm so glad that that's opened up for me.
I'm so glad as well. So for my listeners, Tammy, how can they reach you if they'd like to know more about what you're doing? Is there a website that they can go to, or LinkedIn?
Yeah. My website is pathtotheheart.com, exactly how it sounds. You could contact me through there as well. I could give you, Andrew, my social media links, so that's easy enough for people to access. And I also have my own podcast, as Andrea alluded to, Authentic Leaders Rising. And so if you listen on podcasts, essentially you just search that up and you'll find it.
Good. I'm so delighted. Well, for all of my listeners and my viewers, thank you for joining us. We truly enjoy sharing great people with you. And I don't know whether this is our 430th, pretty close, or 431st podcast, but I keep doing them because there's something absolutely joyful about sharing. I have a hunch Tammy likes to do that as well with hers. And it isn't about me or the guest, it's about we. And as we're doing it, we're thinking about the audience out there, because you're part of our we. And together we can really do better than any one of us by ourselves. So now our books are all on Amazon and Barnes and Noble, and they love for you to see them and buy them and read them and share them and review them. On the Brink is about how a little anthropology can help your business grow. And Women Mean Business, my most recent book, is about women who mean business. And Rethink Smashing the Myths of Women in Business is just a wonderful, longer version of women who have said, of course I can. There's nobody in there who said I can't. They all said, I want to, I'm going to, and here I come. Watch out, folks, I'm on my way. It's been fun. You want a little anthropology to help your business grow? Don't be bashful. info@SimonAssociates.net gets right to us. Or there's always LinkedIn for Andrea or Andi Simon. And we love our clients. Some of them have been with us for 6 or 7 years, and they still hang around helping me help them, because it is a joint effort to get better together. And I think that's what's so much fun. Goodbye, everybody. Have a great day. Remember, take your observations, turn them into innovations, and you too will be amazing as you soar. Bye-bye now. Bye. Thank you, Tam.